Hey guys, it's time to start Chapter 2. We're going to talk about data analysis in Chapter 2, and this chapter will be broken up over several videos. We might watch one video a night, or we might watch a couple a night. It'll just depend. What we're going to talk about today are units and converting units and measurements. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, units are symbols that follow a number to tell you the type of measurement. If I say that it takes 5 for me to get from here to my house, then you don't know if that's 5 miles, 5 minutes, 5 seconds, or if somebody was going to tell you, I'll meet you in 20. Well, is that 20 hours, 20 days, 20 minutes, right? So we have to have units at the end to make of the number to make sure we know what type of measurement it is. Now, scientists use standard units of measurement that together form the International System of Units, and we shorten that to be SI units. And so we use these SI units for consistency so that we can compare data and labs around the world without having inconsistencies. Now let's look at SI base units. These are the base units, what people prefer to measure those certain quantities by. But that doesn't mean that we don't measure length by miles. It just means that the preferred unit for scientists are meters. Okay, so you can use other measurements or other units, but these are the preferred units for the SI base units. Now, let's look at converting measurements. First, let's look at converting temperature. There are 3 equations to learn when converting temperatures. When you go from Celsius to Fahrenheit, you plug in your Celsius temperature into that formula to get Fahrenheit. When you're going from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you plug in the Fahrenheit temperature. And when you're going from Celsius to Kelvin, you plug in your Celsius temperature to get Kelvin. Now, let's go ahead and do some practice on these. All right, here are your practice problems. Go ahead and pause the video, work these out. Remember, it's just plugging the numbers into the formulas you just had. So plug these in, work these out, pause the video, resume the video once you're ready to check your answers. All right, let's check our answers. 1 is 41 degrees Fahrenheit. 2, negative 15 degrees Celsius. 3 is 283 Kelvin. 4 is 51 degrees Celsius. Make sure you jot down any questions you have because we can talk about those when you get to class. Okay, now that we've practiced converting temperature, let's look at converting other types of measurements. Now these, you're going to use a ladder method, and the ladder is this order. We have kilo, hecta, deca, the base unit, deci, centi, milli. You skip 2 spaces and you have micro. You skip 2 spaces and you have nano. Now, one way we memorize this in physical science is King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, but we did not have micro and nano in physical science. So the way I remember it, you can choose any way you want to because this is silly, but the way I remember it is King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, for micro, and then Nestle. So the are reminding me that there's 2 spaces in between each of those because you'll need those spaces when doing the conversions. Now let me show you the steps on how to use the ladder method. The first thing you need to do is determine the starting point. And you also need to determine the ending point also in that first step. I should have written that in there. So determine the starting point and the ending point. Then you're going to count your jumps from the starting point to the ending point, and that will tell you which direction to move the decimal and how many spaces to move the decimal. Let's look at an example. If we have 4 kilometers equals how many meters? That's what we've been given. The starting point is the number we've been given. So the starting point is kilometers. Now, when you have 2 letters like this, that means you're somewhere on the scale or the ladder other than base. The base unit always has 1 letter. So if you have 1 letter as the unit, you always know you're at the base. If you have more than 1 letter, you're somewhere else on the ladder. So our starting point is kilometers. So that's over here. So that's where we're starting. Our ending point is what we're looking for. So our ending point is the base unit right here. So let's count our jumps. We go from starting point to ending point. So we say 1, 2, 3. That's 3 jumps to the right. So let's take our 4, and there's a decimal right after the 4. remember, if you don't see the decimal in the original number, the decimal always goes at the end. So it's 4 decimal, and then we have to move that decimal 3 jumps to the right. So this is our new decimal, and any empty spaces you fill with zeros. So we have 4 kilometers equals 4,000 meters. Okay? So that's how to convert measurements and how to convert units. So let's make sure you understand what this ladder stands for. These are the prefixes that you just saw, the symbols. You need to make sure you know the prefix and the symbol. You also need to know the numerical value. You don't have to memorize it. If you'll just remember that base is 1, if you're increasing and going to the left part of the scale, going 2 kilo, you multiply by 10 each time. If you're going down the scale, then you divide by 10 each time. But just don't forget that there's 2 spaces in between milli and micro and 2 spaces between micro and nano. All right, so make sure you're familiar with these SI prefixes. All right, for summary today, you are going to do a speed dating summary. And this is going to be, go ahead and set a timer for 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, I want you to write everything you can about this video and what you learned in the video. So like I said, do 2 minutes of writing for a speed dating summary. And I'll see you in class.